Hey guys, I'm sitting in my closet right now because my mother-in-law is downstairs watching my daughter and don't really want her to hear everything that I'm about to say in this video. So it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on here, and unfortunately that's not for any good, happy reasons. So I guess I will just dive right in. So the last time that I was on here, I was pregnant. I was giving you guys updates on my pregnancy journey. I think I had gotten through weeks 4 through 6, and that's unfortunately where my pregnancy journey ended with number 2. For those of you guys who are new, my name's Elizabeth. I'm married to a wonderful husband, and we have one beautiful daughter, Charlotte. She'll be 2 in November. So we were pregnant with our second baby. Prior to getting pregnant with that baby, we had a chemical pregnancy, so another type of miscarriage. And to be honest, I really thought that this one was gonna work. It was really easy for us to get pregnant with our first, and I thought that our bad luck had ended, but apparently it had not. So I'll start at the beginning of the story and just kind of let you guys know what's been going on. So it's been about 2 weeks now. Not this past weekend, but the weekend prior to that, on Saturday, I noticed that I had a little bit of discolored discharge. TMI, this is going to be a TMI video. If you know anything about trying to conceive, or you are interested in learning more about trying to conceive, every single video you're going to watch is TMI. So join in on the ride. On Saturday, I had noticed a little bit of discoloration in my discharge. It was like tinted a little bit brownish pink. And I noticed it, but at first I wasn't really concerned at all, because I know that it's really normal for you to have a little bit of spotting in your pregnancy, especially early in the beginning. It could be due to implantation bleeding or just something like that. It's really, really common, really normal. So I didn't think anything of it. I thought, it's probably going to resolve itself today. It'll be no big deal. And then I woke up on Sunday and the discoloration had gotten darker over the course of 24 hours. So at that point, it was definitely that I was spotting, and I just had a gut feeling that something wasn't right. So I called my OB. He was actually out for the weekend, so he had an on-call doctor phone number to call. So I called that doctor and I told her what was going on. And initially she said, no big deal. Like, you don't need to really worry about it. I had asked if I should go into the emergency room and see what was going on. She said, no big deal. Just wait for your appointment. I was supposed to meet my OB for our first ultrasound that coming Tuesday, which actually happened to be my birthday. Really great. So she said, no, don't worry about it. If I were you, I wouldn't go to the emergency room. Like, everything's going to be fine. Just wait until your appointment. I hung up the phone with her and I told my husband I am just not going to be able to be okay over the course of the next 2.5, 3 days that I have to wait to go see my doctor if I don't have answers now. Like, I know there's something going on. I need to have some sort of answer. So he said, okay, let's go to the emergency room. So we called over his dad and stepmom. I'm so thankful we have all of our parents here in the area, because it makes everything so much easier with our daughter. But they were able to come over to watch Charlotte, and we went to the emergency room. So we got to the emergency room. I got hooked up on an IV. They took a bunch of blood. They ended up taking me in for an ultrasound. And during the ultrasound, so if you don't know, ultrasound technicians, are the ones who typically do the actual ultrasound for you, but because they're not licensed doctors, they can't actually really tell you much about what they're seeing on the screen, because basically that would mean that they're giving you some sort of diagnosis, and they can't do that legally. So we did the ultrasound with the ultrasound tech at the emergency room, and she did not speak a word the entire time. And I knew at that point that there probably was something wrong with the pregnancy, because even when they're not allowed to tell you, like, this is what I'm seeing or all of this, they typically, at least with my last pregnancy, they give you some sort of kind of encouragement, like, oh, here's the heartbeat, or, oh, here's the foot, something like that. They say something to encourage you to, be excited about whatever it is that you're looking at. That was not the case with this. She was just very matter of fact. She said, I'm going to look at your ovaries. I'm going to look at your uterus. Okay, we're done. 30 minutes later, I'm going to put you back in your room. And that was it. And then probably about an hour later, the emergency room doctor came in and told me that they didn't see anything on the ultrasound. And basically in that moment, I totally lost it. I don't think I'm going to cry today, because honestly, I'm out of emotions. Like, I am so numb to everything that has happened, and I feel like I've cried so much and I've felt so sad that I just don't even have anything left in me to feel. So she said they didn't see anything. They saw what maybe could be a gestational sac, but it's so deformed that they don't even know if it's a sac. It could just be fluid. She basically questioned if I was even actually pregnant. Like, that's how it felt to me. The only thing that was indicating to her that I had actually been pregnant was that my blood results came back and my HCG levels, which is the pregnancy hormone, were very high. They were in like the 8,000s, almost 9,000. But other than that, it was almost like a questioning of like, are you sure you were pregnant? So I didn't even know how to feel at that moment. I started crying, but I told my husband, I feel like I'm crazy. Am I nuts? Like, was I not even pregnant? Did I just like make all of this up in my head? I didn't. I know that now, which is, I guess, a relief. But yeah, the doctor said the concern at that point was that because they didn't know whether or not what they saw was a gestational sac, it could be that either I've had a missed miscarriage or the pregnancy is ectopic. A missed miscarriage is a miscarriage that basically doesn't immediately result in heavy bleeding. The fetus ends up just stops developing, and your body doesn't really recognize that the fetus has stopped developing until several weeks later. So that's a missed miscarriage. An ectopic pregnancy means that the fertilized egg has attached somewhere outside of your uterus, typically in your fallopian tubes. And that can be life-threatening, because if it continues to grow, if it's in your fallopian tube and the egg continues to grow and the fetus grows, it can rupture your fallopian tubes and you can bleed to death internally. So it's very, very dangerous. If you have an ectopic pregnancy, you need to deal with it immediately because it could be very, very life-threatening. So obviously I'm sitting in the emergency room, not anticipating that any of this is going to be told to me, and just really sad. I was really sad that clearly I was losing our second baby, and I was terrified that I am being told that I could die and not be here for my first baby. Like, it was really, really scary, and not anything that I was anticipating going through. So the doctor gave us the option. She said, you can either stay here in the hospital and we'll monitor you over the next 48 hours, because in order for them to truly determine whether it was an ectopic pregnancy or a missed miscarriage, they were going to have to take my HCG levels, my blood levels, again the following day, 24 hours later. If the HCG level rose, that would mean it was ectopic because the baby was still developing and still growing, and that would be an emergency procedure that I would have to have done. If the HCG levels were decreasing, that would mean it was a miscarriage, and we were just kind of waiting for the last foot to drop in that sense. So she said, you can either stay here in the hospital and we can monitor you, or you can go home. But I suggest that you stay in the hospital, because if this is ectopic and you go home, we live 30 minutes away from the hospital, and something ruptures, you're not going to be able to get to the hospital in time to save your life, basically. I kind of knew in my heart that it wasn't ectopic. I wasn't having any pain. It just, I knew that it was not ectopic. I don't know how I knew, but I knew. I don't know, mother's intuition, I guess. So after thinking about it a lot, going through all the pros and cons of both, I made the decision that I wanted to be home. I wanted to go home and see my daughter. I wanted to be in my own bed. I wanted to just kind of fully digest what was going on. So I made the decision to go home, knowing that if anything changed at all in my body, I needed to get to the hospital immediately. My husband was told that I needed to be under 24-hour supervision. He or someone else couldn't leave me alone just in case anything happened, and anything ruptured. And that we had to follow up with the doctor first thing the next day. So we went home. We just kind of mourned, I guess, and just, I don't know, it was more disbelief that first day. I didn't even really believe that it was happening. So Monday, the next day, I called my OB. He was already informed of everything that had happened. He told me, it's probably not ectopic. Why don't we have you just come in for your normal appointment tomorrow, which was Tuesday, the 27th of August, and we can know more then. So my husband took the day off from work. Our nanny came as normal. We wanted to keep things as normal as possible for Charlotte, so she came and watched Charlotte for the day, and my husband and I just spent time together. And honestly, I think part of the mourning process was that we talked about what was happening, but we didn't really even acknowledge what was happening for that whole day. We just kind of pretended like everything was fine and we were having a great day alone together as a couple, and that was that. Tuesday rolled around. My appointment was at 11 a.m. So I took I initially took Monday and Tuesday off from work and then ended up taking the whole week off. Went into my OB's office. He did another ultrasound, and this time he confirmed that yes, there was a gestational sac. There was even a fetal pole, which is basically the beginnings of the fetus. So he saw all of that on the ultrasound. He confirmed that it was, a pregnancy, but that it was not a normal pregnancy. So this was essentially the confirmation. This is not ectopic, but it is a missed miscarriage. So the next thing that we did was talk about how we were going to deal with it. So I was given 3 options. I could either just kind of wait it out and wait for the miscarriage to take place on its own, or I could do a medicated miscarriage, which basically means they give you something called, I think you pronounce it misoprostol or misoprostol. I don't know how to pronounce it. And that basically speeds up the process of the miscarriage. It's also the same medication that it's the medicated abortion medication that they give. So it's the same thing. So I could either do those 2, or the last option was a D and C, so a dilation and Currigate, I think is what it's called, and that's an outpatient procedure where they basically go in and just get everything out. And I opted for the medicated miscarriage. It seemed like it was going to be the best thing in terms of I could stay home, I could be in my own space, and it just seemed like the best option for me in terms of both physical and mental being okay with it physically and mentally. So I was given the prescription on Tuesday, which I mentioned was also my birthday. So it was, I think, the worst birthday that I've ever had. I will forever remember my 31st birthday in not a good way. So got the prescription, went home, went to bed that night, and then first thing Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., I took the medication. And essentially what happens with that medication is you put the caplets in your cheeks and you let it dissolve in your cheeks for 30 minutes. Whatever doesn't dissolve, you swallow, and then it usually takes about 4 to 6 hours for everything to happen. So you start getting really bad cramping, you typically get diarrhea. I got a really bad diarrhea. I got really, really nauseous pretty immediately. And then at about the 4-hour mark, you're supposed to kind of hit this peak where you feel like you have like period cramps times 10. Like it's apparently feels like you are in labor basically because your uterus is just kind of extracting everything that was in there. You're bleeding heavily, you get everything out, and then it's supposed to kind of die down after that. That didn't happen for me. It took a full 12 hours for me to even start bleeding. And then once I did start bleeding, didn't really have much pain at all, but it took a full 3 days for me to actually pass the sac and pass everything that I needed to pass, a full 3 days. And I'm actually, it's been a little over a week now, and I'm still bleeding, and I'm still, passing little bits of things, which I think is normal. But yeah, it has not been a fun experience. And I think the thing that's been hardest is that the bleeding is just a constant reminder that I was supposed to be pregnant and I'm not. And that's really hard. I don't really know what the future holds. Like I said, I'm really numb right now. I've gone through a lot of emotion, but I think the thing that is the hardest is fear. I'm afraid. I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to have another baby at this point. And I don't even know how to move forward from here. So yeah, that's it. Again, I don't have a point to this video except for, I don't know, I hope that somebody else out there can commiserate. And, if you're going through the same thing, know that I feel for you, and I hope that you're okay. I wish you all the best. I honestly wish myself all the best, and I don't know if I'm okay, to be honest. I'm really sad, and I'm not myself, but I have to survive because I have a beautiful baby girl who needs me, and nothing else really matters. So I have to just kind of get through it and put one foot in front of the other. So for anybody else out there who's going through something similar, please know that I'm here with you, and we can take this journey together, and I can be here as support, and I hope that you'll be here as support for me as well. And that's it. So Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Comment down below if you have any like words of advice or words of wisdom. I would love to hear them.